Happy Halloween, Alley Chatters. I woke up today thinking about and missing Comic-Cons. This isn't unusual for those of us that love cons and miss haunting Artist Alley. This turned my thoughts to all the great friends I've made at cons and the incredibly talented people I've had the chance to interview. It got me thinking. I have an interview that I did at C2E2 in 2018 with the exceptional Sandy King Carpenter. This was my second time interviewing her, and for some reason, the episode was never put out on a regular podcast. It could be the sound quality, which is not great, fair warning. It could be that I used it on the video side of our company and just never put the audio version out. I truly can't remember. The bottom line is, I have a fantastic interview with one of my favorite people on the planet that I can share with you today for the first time. I also then realized you likely never heard the original interview with Sandy, as it was on another show that I did called Tour de Cons. So I've stitched these two interviews together like Frankenstein, unedited, as a special Halloween bonus just for you. Oh, and do yourself a favor and get the Storm King app that just came out. It's loaded with really cool comics and trivia and music and contests. All this John Carpenter stuff, all this Sandy King Carpenter stuff. It's an awesome app. And grab yourself all 6 volumes of John Carpenter's Tales for a Halloween Night. It is a spectacular horror anthology comic and a perfect read while you wait for tonight's trick-or-treaters. Plus, a lot of the people you've heard interviewed on this show have contributed to those books, so you're showing support to the amazing artists that we've had on Alley Chats in the past. I really hope you dig these interviews.
Sandy, I am so thrilled to talk to you. You are Sandy King Carpenter.
Yes.
And most people from the name would know you because you're part of the Carpenter machine. You are actually married to John Carpenter.
Yes.
But you are a geek megastar in your own right, in my opinion. He's going to have the name recognition and everything because he's the director. But you've been script supervisor on like all of his stuff, or a lot of it, correct?
Yes.
And you have your own things. Wait till you hear what I'm going to ask you about outside of that. First of all, as script supervisor, what is your role?
A script supervisor is the liaison between the shooting crew, the editorial staff, and production. So at the beginning of my career, I was actually an animator. And then I went into script supervising. And then that led into producing and second unit directing and that kind of thing. But script supervising was a unique position that gave me an overview of all the needs of a film.
Sure.
And having come from animation, I understood screen direction and everything on a frame-per-frame basis.
Right.
And I had gone to art school with photography being one of my specializations, so I understood lens sizes and all that kind of thing, which a script supervisor keeps track of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all of those things, everything I've done in my life has kind of fed one way or another into what I do.
It's led to this moment on this couch is what it's done.
Yeah, it does, because it led into producing because I understood a lot of aspects of filmmaking. And it also made it so I understood comics better when I went into that process, because animation being penciling, inking, and painting in those days was similar to the process for comics and teamwork.
Yeah.
And I've always liked working in teams.
So you worked in animation.
Yeah.
Did you work for any studio or any particular people?
There were two guys I used to work with who actually got the Academy Award for Antimatter. It was the first Student Academy Award, which is now in the category of animated shorts.
Okay.
And so that was back, I think, in 1973. It was Lewis Hall and Carlos Gutierrez.
Okay.
And so the three of us made Antimatter.
Fun. Now, did you get a piece of hardware for that?
No. They did.
Okay.
That's fine with me. I was their inker. But I did educational films with them.
Okay.
And things like the metric system and it would be, Henry VIII stubbing his toe, and that was the way the inch was discovered. And the last thing I animated for them was earthquake prediction with a strange animal behavior, and it was a frog going up and down in a well bucket going. So, that was my animation career.
But you went to art school, and you had aspirations for being involved in it.
Oh, well, yeah, I went thinking I'd be a fine artist, and realized you'll starve to death.
Right.
So
very few can actually do that.
Yeah, and but that was my background was art, and then what was going on over in the film school next door, because I went to UCLA, art department, film department next door.
Yeah.
All my buddies were actually over in the film school.
Okay.
And so I used to work on everybody's films, including like Randy Cook, who went on to win the Academy Awards on Lord of the Rings and and The Hobbit and things. King Kong. So I would go over and work on their films. And at the same time, there was a great animation teacher who was best friends with Chuck Jones, who would drop by. And so I wound up working in animation.
Yeah, sure. How could you not, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool. So then you went the route with script supervision. This is what I've been leading to.
Okay,
so most people would look at your body of work and then want to talk to you about the John Carpenter films, which we will. Mm-hmm. But you worked on Harper Valley PTA.
Oh my God, yeah.
You worked, I know, I saw that. I was like, I have to bring this up. Most people wouldn't know what that is anymore. But yeah. I do. I saw it in the theater as a kid.
Barbara Eden, yeah.
And want to hear something really weird? Okay, so there used to be a music venue out here called Poplar Creek. It was an outdoor music theater. And with my parents, I was a kid. I saw all the, performers. And Barbara Eden came out and sang Harper Valley PTA out there.
Because she was married to the the owner of the Chicago Sun-Times.
Oh,
so she lived in Chicago.
Do you want to know what's funny? We went. There used to be a place. It might still be there. It was like a crab house downtown. I was a kid. Uh-huh. We went there. Big family thing. And Barbara Eden was sitting at the table next to us. That's all I remember.
Yeah, she lived here.
She lived here.
And she lived here while she was doing the movie Harper Valley PTA.
So you were script supervisor on this.
Yeah.
Now, as script supervisor, did you have any input in the story, or was it?
No.
So what you're doing is you're actually like helping bring the script to the screen by managing what's happening from behind the scenes. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, basically working with the director to make sure that his vision is covered and going to the editor, that the film, all the right pieces are being filmed, that they can cut the film, that there's continuity, all of that stuff.
It's so funny when I look at your body of work and I look at some of these early ones. You worked on The Incredible Melting Man.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
Do you know how much I loved that when I was a kid?
Oh, my God.
That was a movie, and nobody ever knows that movie when I bring it up.
Oh, yeah, they shouldn't.
I didn't say it was good. Oh, wait. Script supervision was amazing on that film.
Well, it wasn't. There were 3 different units shooting at the same time. And I remember at one point, one of the units lost the wrong ear on the astronaut. And we're going,
no.
Are you kidding me? And everybody was stopping in all the other units going, how the hell did Alex lose the wrong ear? And we're all going,
flip the video.
Tell me this
there wasn't video then. Flip the film.
Yeah. Things like that happened because you had 3 units going, all at different parts of the Sun Valley power plant.
Yeah.
And,
That's so funny. And you worked on Long Riders, which is a great film.
Yeah.
That had to be fun to work on, too.
It was hard work because there were 6 cameras on virtually every shot. And
6 cameras?
Oh, yeah. And
so you're glad you weren't the editor on this film?
It was a massive editorial job, but I have lifelong friends off that film because the Keach brothers were the executive producers along with David Carradine. And Carradine's had produced the play.
Yeah.
And so they, along with Peter Jason, had done it in New York. And I got brought in by, I met Walter Hill through his, at the time, girlfriend Trina Mitchum, Robert Mitchum's daughter, who I'd gone to school with.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of convoluted deals. But Peter Jason to this day is one of my best friends. He walked my mother down the aisle on my wedding.
Oh, wow.
He was the Pinkerton that got shot. And it was a rough show. We were up in the mountains of Georgia.
Yeah.
And
aren't the Quaids in that too?
The Quaids are in it.
Man, everybody's in there.
Oh, yeah.
What a great movie that, once again, as they get a little older, kind of get lost to time, hopefully people will go back and watch it, because I love that film.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, the sky should have looked great. We went through 3 hurricanes.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding.
Holy cow. How did you do your job with that, too? I mean, if you're having hurricanes and changes in the look of everything, wouldn't that affect what you're trying to do?
Yeah, but I can't control the sky. But what it really did was...
Oh, come on, Sandy, I bet you can.
But what it really did, who was great was Jack Collis was the art director. And he was a magician at creating instantaneous sets in the town of Parrott, Georgia.
Okay.
Which was not far from Plains, Georgia. And he had to create so many cover sets that more and more of what we were supposed to shoot when we got back to LA was being shot in cover sets in Georgia.
Wow.
So we were gone forever.
Yeah. So it wasn't just the long writers, it was the long shoot.
Yeah. We were there for an eternity.
So if I don't bring these 2 up, my wife is going to kill me.
Okay. 16 Candles.
How did you know? Guess what the other one is?
Thief?
No, that would be me. Oh my God, I love Thief.
Okay.
The Outsiders.
Oh, yeah, okay. Pony Boy.
She loves both of those. And on our shows, we talk about those.
Oh, really?
All the time. They come up all the time.
Yeah, the kids' movies, yeah.
Yeah, she just loves those. And my 9-year-old daughter knows the references. She hasn't seen them, obviously, but she knows the references to both of them.
Yeah, well, we did Outsiders and Rumblefish back to back.
Oh, you worked on Rumblefish also?
Well, Rumblefish was what I was hired to do.
Really?
And what happened was I went to Outsiders had shot first and was running over. And they stopped, went into rehearsals on Rumblefish. And so I did the rehearsals on Rumblefish in Tulsa. And then we did the pickup shots on Outsiders. So I took over from the original script supervisor on Outsiders. Then we shot Rumblefish. Then we went back and shot the reshoots on both.
Wow. You know what? When you watch those films, you can almost tell they're integrated. So now that you're telling me this, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's a certain symbiosis,
even though
between them.
The look is completely different. Cinematographer was completely different things going on.
Steve Burum was incredible. And, the Outsiders, we kidded was the gold lame, G-rated.
Yeah.
Everything was golly gee. And for Matt, it was really difficult because his 2 characters were so different.
I bet.
He was a very innocent, sweet boy in The Outsiders, and he was the rough kid in Rumblefish.
Yeah.
And Rumblefish had the swearing, and Outsiders was the G-rated, and we would have to go, okay, cut, no swear words.
Yeah.
And not only that, he was turning 18 during it, so he was going through all kinds of changes.
Yeah.
So
when he did Tex right after that too, which was another S.E. Hinton.
I think he did Tex right before.
Right before. I remember them all coming out real close to each other.
Yeah, he'd either because he'd done.
And of course, I was a teenager, so it hit my wheelhouse
sure.
Right there. I think, in fact, we were reading Outsiders in class when the movie came out.
Probably. I remember there was a big deal with that, and it's funny because I've only recently been talking to S.E. Hinton online again after not, being in touch with her for years.
So just recently.
Yeah.
Is she doing anything now, or?
I don't know. It's been more like, how are you?
Like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. There's a third one. I didn't realize. I was just looking through here that, once again, my wife Martha would die if I didn't say, you worked on Starman.
Oh, yeah.
Starman is a gorgeous movie. What a great film. Now, was that fun? You worked with, that was Bridges again, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, so you worked with him a couple of times there. Well, was he in Long Riders?
No, he
that was
wasn't in the
Quaid.
Long Riders.
I get everybody
That
so
was
confused.
that was Quaid and, oh man, I'm drawing a blank on the other two brothers. Director married to Jamie Lee Curtis.
Wait, now?
Yeah.
That's, oh boy.
Great director.
Yeah.
His brother's name is Nick.
Well, he's the comedian that she's
Yes.
married to. Who did, Chris? Yeah.
Oh,
Who's the director of
Waiting for
Best in
Guffman.
Show and Waiting for Guffman? Christopher
Chris
Guest.
Guest. I was going Chris, and I was going. Anyhow, so Chris and Nick Guest were the other two brothers.
Really?
Yeah, he's the one who shot Jesse James. That's Chris Guest.
I didn't even realize
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, he's so good.
He's great, and he's a wonderful, wonderful man.
Yeah. You can kind of tell, though, when you watch those movies, because they become families. Like the films you and your husband, I mean, I can tell there's a
Yes.
lot of love going on there, and
Yeah.
everybody's really cool, you
Yeah.
know?
Now, the Bridges were originally going to play the roles that the Guests played.
Okay.
And because all those guys, the Carradines and the Bridges and stuff, all grew up together.
Okay.
But something or other about scheduling,
Things happen.
it didn't happen. But yeah, Jeff was in Starman.
Yeah, Starman is just a great film.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun to shoot.
So then, now, at what point did you meet John?
Starman.
Starman is when you met John.
Yeah, that's where I fell in love with my husband.
And you guys fell in love, and it became another cottage industry, is the John Carpenter stuff.
Yeah.
Now, you worked on, Chris here from the Blue Box is an enormous fan of Big Trouble in Little China.
Ah, yeah.
Do you want to step in? You want to say something?
Oh, it is.
He talks about it, once again, we talk about it almost every weekend on our show. And you were script supervisor on that. Now, how did that go? Because that movie is crazy. You've got so many things going on.
Yeah.
How did you keep track of everything happening?
My script book from that show is so thick with diagrams.
I can imagine.
But you realize that all of that is choreographed.
Yeah.
All of that's laid out. So, the planning and everything is, once it's down, it's written down. And, I've got a diagram of where all the cameras are and what all the action is.
It's just from watching that movie, I can't imagine doing what you did on it.
That's my strong point.
Well, you're wonderful at it, because
Thank you.
that's a tricky one.
Yeah, but I was pretty proud of the job I did on that one.
You should be.
That's one of my two favorites of John's movies.
You also did They Live,
Yes.
which is a cult icon. That had to be a fun one to work on. Also, now that you seem to have less stuff going on all the way around, so it's probably a little easier to manage. Am I wrong on that?
Well, that one was interesting because at that point, Larry Frankel and I were producing and doing our set jobs.
Okay.
So he was first AD and producer, and I was script supervising and associate producing. Same way we did on Prince of Darkness, we were double shifting. And I like being on the set at the same time as producing because you can problem solve really well. And on films that size, we could keep doing that. On the bigger films, it's really hard to not have an office presence as well.
Right.
So, that's more problematic.
So do you prefer something with the smaller scope like that then?
No, I like them all.
Okay. You just like doing it.
Yeah,
You're working your dream job? What?
yeah. My life is great.
So it is. So you also, now we're going to move into the writing of that, because you've got this line of comic books. You've got Asylum you're doing.
Yeah, we have John Carpenter's Asylum and we have Halloween Nights.
And Halloween Nights. Now, with Halloween Nights, I was talking to Steve, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote segments in there. Now, you've written in it too, correct? Or are you?
Yes,
editing?
I edit the whole thing, and I wrote one of the stories, and John wrote one of the stories, and we've got 7 writers
Okay.
on Halloween Nights on the on this one that came out for the last Halloween. We have volume 2 coming out for next Halloween.
Yes.
And that's going to be twice the size.
Now, are you looking at doing anything beyond the comic with it? Are you hoping to do more? Because I'm a big fan of... I mean, I like when things cross over, but I like the idea of an anthology horror comic.
It's just an anthology horror comic.
I love it.
That's all it is. I license the stories from the writers with the proviso that they own their IP, and I'm only licensing it for the comic book and any compilations of the comic book, because, we may make a compilation of all the anthologies.
Sure.
But outside that, no, it's a comic.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And there's Brian Glass. That's another friend of mine. He's an artist. He does great stuff. I'm sorry, I got distracted. They're shiny objects.
Yeah.
So, and then the other one for Asylum. Now, I don't know Asylum. It looks amazing. Now, this is when you edit.
No, I write it.
You write it. Okay.
I
want to make sure I'm
edit
clear on that. Okay,
and publish it.
So, what is Asylum?
A defraud Catholic priest and an LA homicide detective run into each other when they're both chasing the same guy.
Okay.
One to lock him up as a serial killer, the other to save his soul. One of the two central characters is Daniel Beckett, the priest. He has spoken to the devil. He's seen demons. He's never seen an angel, and God's never spoken to him.
Okay.
He's God's warrior at war with God. And so that's your setup.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Lucifer is coming through in the City of Angels as kind of a practical joke against God. He thinks that's an interesting thing to do.
Okay. Of course he would.
So that's the setup back in issue 1. We're now on issue 14, about to come out. And there's another character, Father Leone, who, as Beckett is warring with these issues, is saying to him, perhaps the angels you're looking for are within yourself. And what we examine in this, John Carpenter's anti-heroes are generally guys who, while they may not conform to the rules, have a great sense of their own personal ethics. If you think of Snake Plissken,
right.
if you think of any of them, they have their own sense of right and wrong.
Right.
What I examine in Asylum is, where are your gods? And who are you in relation to right and wrong?
Interesting.
And I had a grandfather that always said he could resist anything but temptation. Okay, what are those things in your life?
Yeah.
And where do we come down on the reality of evil?
Interesting.
So within in an entertainment format and an art format, how do we examine those things we've been taught, whether it's religious dogma or right and wrong? So that's what interests me. Like, I always got interested. I had a Catholic next door neighbor when I was a little girl, and she would come to me and tell me I was going to hell because I wasn't baptized as a child.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And babies went to limbo, and people went to purgatory.
Right.
And then one day, the Catholic Church abandoned limbo, and I said, but did God?
Right. Yeah, who made that rule?
Yeah, and did anyone tell God?
Right.
And meanwhile, what happened to the babies in limbo?
Right.
So things like that have always been interesting to me. What man made up versus, did God decide that?
Right.
Is there God? And if there is no God, does it matter? What are you going to be as a human anyway?
Right. Where what's the eternal struggle? What's the eternal? That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That is really, really cool. Now, does this have a contained story? Like, you're at issue 14. Are you saying, I have a story arc, I'm looking at a 5-year run, or I'm looking at, or is it like you're just exploring?
I planned a 3-year arc.
Okay.
We're heading into the 3rd arc.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, that's the story. And if at some point a side issue, a different character, or something, a spur occurs that seems like it would be a good story, maybe there'll be something else. But I think this is a 3-arc.
Yeah. So are you? You obviously like comics. Did you write comics before this, or was this kind of your first foray into this world of graphic novels?
This was the first foray into it. Originally, Asylum was, there had been an idea brought to us by Thomas Ian Griffith, the master vampire from Vampires. He was a great writer. He writes on Grimm now.
Okay.
He had an idea for a central character with the gift of discernment, which seemed really interesting. It seemed like it could have a Jekyll and Hyde interest, and it's a precept in the Catholic Church of someone who has the ability to take evil into themselves and dissolve it. But during the time it's in them, they become that demon.
Right, until it withers away.
Yeah, and I thought, cool, what do we do with that?
Yeah.
So he and John and I had this notion for a TV series. At the time we came up with it, it was considered too dark for television. It was pre-Breaking Bad days.
Yeah.
And then we kind of resurrected it, and then it became a big deal. They wanted to do it as a sleepy little New England town. I said, well, Los Angeles is a character. And a little development executive's assistant said, well, it's not like it's a graphic novel or anything. And I went, actually...
You know what?
Actually, it is.
Yeah.
And I came out meeting and I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't fight stupid fights because someone wants to shoot non-union in North Carolina.
Right.
And I went home to John. He said, how'd it go? And I said, we're doing a comic book. He said, really? And he said, what do we know about comics? I said, nothing, but we can learn. And we spent
Absolutely.
2 years.
I'm saying you're talking my language.
Spent 2 years researching, learning the business of comics. Bruce Jones, who was the original writer, was gracious with his time and education and taught me about writing for comics. And everybody in the comics industry has been, outside of their first skepticism about, do you come in peace?
Right.
It's been great. Jimmy Palmiotti, Steve Niles, Bruce Jones, they've been amazing.
Yeah.
And I learned a huge amount through editing Bruce's scripts and trying to figure out, okay, how did you take me there? How did I wind up on a Ferris wheel somewhere? How did I get, even when you weren't writing what the story was supposed to be, how did I buy into it?
Yeah.
What is this about page turns? How do I get my cliffhangers? What makes this different from screenwriting?
So you have really spent the time learning this medium.
Oh,
because it is specifically a medium. It's its own thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I respect that quite a bit because I know a lot of people that they figure if I can write whatever medium and I just jump into it. They don't take the time to learn the language of the medium.
No.
And when you learn it, that's when you produce gold.
Yeah, it is absolutely not the same as screenwriting. But it is a great exercise for any writer because of the economy of words and how precise you need to be to get any of that. I mean, I will write something and I'll go, okay, man, this issue is it. And I'll read back through and go, and it went nowhere.
Right.
And I have no
In your head, it was doing all sorts of great
I
things.
was cooking. I thought I was the bee's knees. And I just go, I suck. Start over.
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah.
You have no idea how many podcasts I've had to trash.
But you'll sit there and kind of go, okay, the plot's there. I did what I meant to do, and I have no...
Yeah, like there's no tension or the message was unclear or...
Whatever.
I know. And comic books, it's difficult because you're not only writing the dialogue, but you have to think as you're writing those of the image or how you're, like you said, how you're turning the page. I remember I was talking to, I think it was Scott McCloud who wrote Understanding Comics, and he was talking, ad nauseum about the white space and the importance of the white space and what he was saying, like, and this was just a conversation where all of a sudden it became all about that little bit of space is so crucial. You have to understand it so well to propel things. You don't have that in film. You don't have a white space.
No.
But you have transitions.
We do different things. Yeah, I mean, it's different issues.
Yeah.
It's a different animal. But, I mean, at its base, look, we're all storytellers. But you have to respect the medium.
So are you planning after this, let's say we've ended the three-year arc, do you have other comics? I mean, is this going to be kind of an ongoing...
Yeah, I can't help it. Now I'm hooked. And we found a John Carpenter niche in the comics world. We've always known that our fans crossed over into gaming, comics.
Totally.
All of it. And before, people were coming to John asking him to put his name on comics, but they were generally not good comics. They wanted his name to sell them.
This doesn't feel that way. This doesn't feel like you're selling the name.
No. We have to live up to the name.
Yeah.
I mean, believe me, when I write, and he sees every page, he sees everything going in, he sees every piece of artwork from penciling on. When I write an issue, I then give it to him to read. And then it's going not to my husband, it's going to the master of horror. And I'll watch him read it. And if he hands it back to me and goes, "That's great," I have just blown it. You know, it's just like, oh,
that was good. Nice, honey. Yeah.
If I watch him and he goes, "Oh, man," or goes, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah, then you know you got him.
I did it.
Yeah, that's what you want.
I nailed John Carpenter. You know, that's my goal every issue.
That's awesome.
Because if I can get that out of him, then
his fans are going to get that.
His fans are going to get it.
And that means your fans are going to get that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
All right, before we get too busy, I got two more questions.
Yes.
This has been wonderful. Two more questions. One is, we have a lot of listeners, a lot of fans that are younger, that are wanting to be in either comics or film or whatever. One of the questions that comes up a lot is, what was school like for you? Now, you went to school in California, but like high school, did you find solace in like writing and film? Did you have, was that kind of your thing? Or were you like the popular girl and, you know, it was like, I kind of liked it.
I went to a girls' private school. I was very fortunate. In early elementary school, I didn't fit in that much, more because I've always been the questioning type. So I wound up going to this girls' private school, and it was a smaller school, heavy college prep, and it was unique for its time because it had the attitude of girls can be anything. And
great.
In my physics class was Sally Ride, the first woman astronaut. You can guess what that grading curve was.
Yeah, I hope it wasn't a bell curve. That's tough.
And on the girls' teams were Olympic swimmers and tennis players.
Wow.
And one of the girls in my class went on to become a primatologist who took over Jane Goodall's gorilla preserve. And, you know, I think that whatever each of us was encouraged.
Yeah.
And I was always into art. And there was an attitude there that it was not, the kind of harassment and outsider stuff wasn't stood for.
Right.
And we were a class of 42 girls. And
so a nice tight-knit group.
It was a tight-knit group that there's still like 20 of us that get together.
Wow.
And fly in from other states and things like that. at one of the cons, one of the girls' daughters wound up, she was working another booth somewhere and would come over, and I wound up signing stuff for her boyfriend, things like that. One of the other daughters of another classmate has a little girl that's in a TV pilot in LA and was calling up to see if she could stay in the guest house.
Wow.
So I feel really fortunate in that regard. I never felt like a particular outsider.
Yeah.
I feel for kids now because I think we have a culture that is way too concerned with who's in and who's not. Way too concerned with being cheap.
Yeah.
And I think the other fortunate thing about how I grew up half in LA and half in Colorado. My grandfather had a ranch in Colorado. Whenever I wasn't in school, I was on a horse ranch.
Fun.
And I was largely influenced by my dad and my grandfather. My grandfather was considered a really gruff, imposing guy who I found to be not at all frightening. And one of the biggest things I was taught in life was not to be afraid of anything.
Yeah.
And I think fear is an immobilizing thing in life. And one of the things I tried to teach my kids was not to be afraid about or of anything. Whether it's failure or physically afraid.
Right. The world.
The world.
I mean,
in general.
I can't tell you how many people we meet that it seems like they're almost afraid to leave their room because they're so afraid of everything. And we've raised our daughter this way. We've tried to have her be fearless. Now, we homeschool.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is we want her to have just experiences that are super positive.
And they should be allowed to be children. I had a panel last night where people were shocked that our kids didn't see our movies till they were 12. Because I make them for adults.
Right.
They are made to scare and educate in different ways because they're political satire.
Well, there's messages there, sure, but they're not for kids.
Grown-ups.
Yes.
And when they say, but you made a choice to have a child, raise them like a child and give them a child's sense of wonder.
Yeah. We talk about it all the time because Molly is pretty advanced, but we always tell her, there is so much great material that you can absorb before you get to Halloween.
Yep.
Enjoy it, live it, have fun with it. And then when you get to these, you discover, because you're going to have those the rest of your life.
Yes. No, there's...
Oh, Sandy, you're talking my language.
No, it's 100% that. Be a parent. And they'd say, how do you do it? I go, when we made body bags, the kids were around the sets and they see body parts. They say, but it's rubber. It's a piece of rubber.
Yeah, they understand.
See, that's fabricated and it's not in the context once it's a finished film,
right,
which is made to frighten and all that. Yeah, they grew up with Mark Hamill. They're not seeing Mark Hamill as a serial killer.
Right.
But, people say, well, I remember having to face the TV Critics Association. And I had Greg Nicotero with me with 3 severed heads and that stuff. And they're saying, but how do you keep them from seeing it? I said, when I leave the house, I disconnect the cable.
What is this?
There you go. Let them be kids,
Yeah.
Wonderful.
This is part of life. Take personal responsibility.
This conversation went places I wasn't expecting. I love it. Okay, I got one more question for you. I know that people want to talk to you. Okay. Got this group of guys right here. Give me the top 3 books they should read. Throw them out there.
To Kill a Mockingbird. Catcher in the Rye.
Whatever comes to mind, spit it out.
God, what's my 3rd?
If it's Amelia Bedelia, I am going to get up from this couch and be done with you.
No. What would be the 3rd one?
But boy, you've got 2 winners. Now you got a lot to live up to.
How old are they?
Don't worry about how old they are. Teenagers.
Yeah.
You do worry about that, though. So, yes, you can worry about it. 15 and 18.
Well, I really like Sebastian Junger's, I like Perfect Storm, and I like Horse Soldiers, because they're real interesting reality books.
Yeah. Yeah, Horse Soldiers is a great book.
Yeah.
I haven't read Perfect Storm, but Horse Soldiers is wonderful.
Yeah.
Well done, Sandy. Thank you so very much for joining me on this.
Thank you.
I had
It's
a
been
great
fun.
time.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, I can't tell you how much a thrill it was for me. And when I tell my wife about those films, she's like, did you talk about 16 Candles?
And now, on to part 2.
Sandy, I'm so excited to talk to you again. I think it's been 3 years since I got to sit down with you.
Wow, that long.
Yes, I know. Time flies, right?
Yeah.
But I've been following everything that you've been doing with these comics, and it's just, I mean, what a great series you got going. I think 3 years ago you had only a couple of titles, and now you're really storming ahead.
Yeah, it became an addiction. It's, well, we started with Asylum, and that's our ongoing series when you like to follow characters and plots through different arcs. We still have that one. We're heading into the 3rd arc this year. And then just kind of on a fluke, we started the Tales for Halloween Night. And I think we just started that the last time.
I think that was just started when we did that.
Right.
And that's really got legs.
Yeah, it does. And so that comes out once a year at Halloween so that everybody's got something special from us then. And that's, our horror anthology. It's a dozen stories generally. First story is always by John, last story is always by me. And in between, it's all different writers and all different artists.
Sure.
It's the box of chocolates of horror for somebody that wants to sit down on, a dark and stormy night and scare themselves stupid.
That'd be dark chocolate, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. And so that one, really, we had no idea whether anybody else would care. We kind of did it for the fun of it, thinking it was a one-shot deal. And it turned out to be popular not only with the fans, but with the creators. Everybody likes to come over and try their hand at a little bit of horror.
Sure. Well, and it's a great title. I've read through, and it's funny. It doesn't have a through line because it's anthology,
Right.
but it does a little bit as you're reading it. It's almost like reading an EC comic or watching Twilight Zone, where it's got the tone, and you're drawn into the tone of it.
Well, that's the idea. I mean, I feel really strongly about the quality of horror, the role of horror in our lives, what it gives you in the chance to, as allegorical tales, as ways to work out fear in your life and be safe. It's like a roller coaster. You experience the adrenaline and come out without having been too risky.
Right.
And putting together an anthology is fun because it has its own overall rhythm that you have to set. And when you do it successfully, it is a story in and of itself.
Right.
Even though they're not interrelated tales.
And that's exactly the experience I've had as a reader.
Great.
So,
then I did
succeeded.
it.
Yes.
And then now we've launched Tales of Science Fiction.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that too. Now, I haven't read this yet. So
Aha.
I did get my review copy to read. Mm-hmm. I've been busy. But
How dare you?
I am so intrigued.
Well,
so is it going to be, is it horror sci-fi, or are you going hardcore sci-fi? What's the premise here?
Well, what I realized that we were missing, John's always had a history in science fiction, and I was looking around, and we had a great sci-fi story that John and I had thought of. And I thought, this would make a good comic. And I was thinking, maybe 4 issues, 6 issues, something like that. But what I realized that we were missing a sci-fi line. And so something in between the ongoing character and plot arcs of Asylum and the short bursts of an anthology in Tales for Halloween Night. So what this is it's a monthly series of mini-series. So however long a story takes to tell is how many issues it is. So, like the first story, Vault, lasted 3 issues.
Okay.
The second story, the Vortex, lasts 8 issues.
I can't believe that I haven't read these yet. It's been in my stack, and it is so deep in my wheelhouse. And now that you're telling me it's these stories, I am down with this.
It's fun. Like James Ninnis wrote the first one, Vault, and Andreas Esparza and Sergio Martinez did the art. It's awesome. James is heavily influenced by Event Horizon and Sunshine, so it's got that vibe.
Very cool.
On Vortex, John and I created that story and the initial characters, but I turned it over to Mike Sizemore to write, a British writer who is awesome. He's so deep in the tropes of the genre. And that one's more like, if you want to say, The Thing in outer space.
Sure.
The next one up's going to be David J. Scow, The Standoff, and that's an alien spaceship crashes into a high security prison.
Oh, yes.
You know, so we'll go back and forth between sci-fi on Earth, outer space, doing all of it, and of course there'll be a horror edge to it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. It's funny you say the ship into the asylum or into the high security prison. Way back, when before the third Alien movie came out, I had heard that it was going to be that the ship crashed onto a prison ship, like a spaceship.
Yeah.
And that lit me up for years.
Yeah,
so when you just said this, I can't buy this fast enough. It's a great concept.
This is it's so cool. It's so twisted. I think people are going to have a ball.
Done it. That's why I'm saying it's 30 years nobody's done it, and you're tapping it exactly.
Yeah. Now, David's an awesome writer, and I re-teamed him up with again Andreas and Sergio, who he hadn't worked with yet.
Excellent.
And they're just great and gritty, and has a real good vibe to it.
I will say that's another thing. Like I really enjoy the writing in your books. I think I said that the last time. It's probably even stronger now. Like I really look forward to it. I love the writing. Your artwork is excellent too. I mean, you really tapped into the right artists. I'm just enjoying the entire premise of what this company represents and what you put together.
Thank you. I mean, I think that's, it's part of what I do as a movie producer is putting together teams. My background was totally in art and animation.
Right.
I've always felt that you should get what you pay for. I want the fans excited, whether they paid $4 for a comic or $35 for a trade. Whatever it is, I want them happy they bought it and to feel like they got a total experience that represents our brand.
I love that, Sandy. I love that very, very much. I have the same philosophy, whether they're getting it free. That might be all they can afford.
Yeah.
Why cut them short?
No. And you don't have to. I mean, I really feel that, they always said that comics were the people's art. And it should be accessible, and it should be good, and part of the fun is hunting down the best teams, putting together the best art for the right story, and I find it really exciting. I want to be excited when I see those pages come in.
I get it. So I got a question off comics first.
Yeah.
You love horror. There's kind of a new breed of horror going on right now. What do you think of this new stuff? Did you like Get Out?
I thought Get Out rocked because it was about something. It addressed societal issues, and I think that
I actually felt that it reminded me of John Carpenter because of that.
No, Jordan Peele is real smart and real literate in the genre. If you hear his interviews, he knows the music, he knows the filmmakers, he knows the story structure. Right. But there's always been, people have sold short the connection between comedy and horror. You have to care about the characters in order to either feel what comes out of comedy or to care about the stakes in horror. It's not about the splatter factor. It's about what's underneath and about what's happening to the characters. Horror is not the story. Horror is your reaction.
Right.
So, you don't write horror. You react in horror. And I think that Jordan Peele got it.
I do too.
No, I think he did a great job.
Boy, now that I've said that, now all I want to talk about is Get Out and how it reminds me of John's stuff, because it really does tap into that same thing for me, where it's, you've got the splatter, or you've got the horror element, but there's something deeper going on. There's a social statement going on.
Absolutely.
With that material, and that's what really matters.
Well, it does, and I think that's what the guys they consider what they call the masters of horror, which is how that phrase ever started, because all the guys started laughing that the movie posters all called them the masters of horror.
Right.
I think that they were all specialists in talking about something. George Romero was about societal structure.
Right.
Cronenberg was about body alienation. And John was about who are you really?
Right.
And I think that you have to be a real storyteller. You have to be talking about something. And horror is the format for allegorical tales. And I think that it's heartening to see something like Get Out, because he's talking to you about something important.
Right.
If you make Gandhi, you're preaching to the converted. If you make Get Out, if you make They Live, if you make those other movies, you're able to reach someone and talk to them on an entertainment level about another issue that's important.
But it taps deeper, and it makes you see. What I love, and it's going to sound weird because we're talking about horror, but I love when it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't mean the splatter factor.
No.
I mean that it's tapping into something in you that maybe you don't want to explore, or maybe you've been afraid to, and that's why the masters are the ones that I gravitate towards.
Well, I think so, and it's why those movies, people still flock to the anniversary screenings in the theaters to share them. You know, there is something special in what's being said and what still resonates. And I'm proud of those. I'm proud of my husband and the movies he's made.
Gosh, both of you.
And I'm proud that there's new storytellers that get it. And I'm proud that we've kind of gone away from splatter porn, and
that was a fad.
It was a fad, and I don't think it was particularly effective to just spread gore and not tell a whole story. Now, that probably makes me sound really old-fashioned, but I'm really glad that the new fashion is more psychological, more affecting stories.
But it doesn't last. It's chewing gum the other way.
Yeah, and
they can be fun.
Look,
I'm not saying I don't like some of them, but there's a difference. It's when people say, "What's a good movie versus an okay movie?" You go, a good movie, an actual good movie, taps into something.
Well,
it means something.
And remember, horror goes through cycles. It's always going to go through something. There's going to be monster cycle, there's going to be the psychological cycle, and there's going to be, some other splatter cycle. It all depends what's going on in society and what gives people vent to their emotions.
So I'm going to shift this again.
Okay.
I know that, now I don't know if it's happened, but is Tales being converted to a TV show?
Yes, Tales is going to be a TV show on Sci-Fi.
Excellent. So that is a done deal. That is happening.
That is a done deal. That is happening for Sci-Fi, and we will be settled on a writer sometime in the next 2 weeks. It's been a year-long process of everybody getting to know each other and finding a shape for the show that is not entirely predictable.
Is it going to be, I'm sure it's going to be anthology.
Yes.
Are you looking at maybe like a 13-week run, or do you know what that is yet?
I haven't got a clue.
Don't have a clue. That's fair enough.
No, I think a lot will be decided when we have a couple of writers who have completely different takes on how to make this a John Carpenter experience in television, and not just barf back the comics. How to make this a good transition to another medium.
I like that you're taking your time with it too. It should be.
Yeah.
It should have that type of care.
Yeah. No, this isn't just about having a deal. This is about making a good TV show.
Now, are any of the other properties getting looked at?
Not right now. I mean, really, that wasn't. Yeah. I mean, that was something that came out of the blue where they approached us. We really didn't go put them out for sale. We have other TV deals and other properties, but when we came into comics, it was to make comics.
Sure. I remember that was actually something you and I talked about 3 years ago, and what this was.
Yeah, I felt like kind of a traitor when they came and said, "Okay, we want."
Blame John.
We want to. No, it was just a surprise because I was a little surprised they chose an anthology trade to make into a TV show, because I was like, okay, so what is it you want out of this? Because I hadn't approached that this way. One of the things about comics is you can create any fantasy world without thinking about budgets and schedules and things like that. I can have sea monsters in it. I'm pretty positive they don't want a sea monster because that's expensive. So that was part of this getting to know you conversation, which is, all right, what is it that the network thinks they want out of an anthological series that in comic land was every kind of universe? So we want to be sure that we're not shortchanging anybody from the audience through the network.
Now, are you looking at like fully original stories, or are you going to be converting what you've already done, or is it a mix?
It remains to be seen.
Remains to be seen. I love that. Anything else you've got coming up? I know we've got the
most of it I can't talk about. Yeah, we haven't got John's music.
We can talk about that for a second. Is he still touring?
Well, right now he's getting ready to score the new Halloween.
So he's scoring it. I think I read that. Is he excited about the new Halloween?
Yeah, I think it's going to be good.
Are you excited about the new Halloween?
I think it's going to be good.
I do too. I'm actually super excited about it.
Yeah, I think that David and Danny, wrote a great script, and I think that as many fans as can ever agree on anything are going to be excited. And I know that Jamie was really happy. Nick Castle's back as the Shape, which I just think is stupendous.
Amazing. Yeah.
And
is it the Shatner mask? Is that going to make a reappearance, or are they going to update it?
I think you'll have to wait and see.
Oh, I want it to be the Shatner mask. Maybe they should do a Chris Pine mask. Make it something new. That was a terrible joke.
I think so. I think that was a terrible joke.
All right, Sadie. Well, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing what happens with all of this.
Thank you.
Super excited.
It's great to see you.
You can find Alley Chats on Facebook by searching for @AlleyChats. You can also visit us at our webpage, smgpods.com/AlleyChats, for links to all our episodes and other cool stuff. One easy way to support our show is to rate and review Alley Chats wherever you listen to your podcasts. Those ratings really help us out and help others find our show as well. Alley Chats is produced and edited by Rob Southgate for Southgate Media Group. Be sure to subscribe to Alley Chats because you definitely don't want to miss an episode. Thanks again to our affiliate sponsors, Untitled and Tweaked Audio. Links to them are on our webpage and in the show notes. This wouldn't be possible without them. If you're an artist, a writer, or creative type who would have a table at an artist alley and would like to be on Alley Chats, message us through the Facebook page or email us directly at southgatemediagroup@gmail.com and we'll set up an interview. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with another fantastic show.